After World War II, hopes for peace quickly faded as the alliance between the United States and the Soviet Union collapsed. Two superpowers emerged, the democratic capitalist US and the communist authoritarian Soviet Union. Locked in a Cold War, they avoided direct conflict, but battled for global influence through politics, economics, and proxy wars. The US promoted democracy and capitalism, offering aid like the Marshall Plan to rebuild Europe and contain communism. The Soviet Union, meanwhile, imposed communism across Eastern Europe, aiming for a classless society under strict government control. Both sides built up massive militaries and nuclear arsenals, fueling a climate of fear and suspicion. The world was split by ideology, freedom and individual rights versus state control and equality. Each superpower sought to spread its system, convinced it was the path to a better world. This fundamental clash shaped global politics for over 40 years. The Cold War wasn't fought on battlefields, but in hearts and minds and the fate of nations. The rivalry would define an era, touching every corner of the globe. The world was now divided, by walls, by weapons, and by ideas. The stage was set for decades of tension and uncertainty. Europe's division became the Cold War's first battleground. Soviet forces stayed in Eastern Europe, installing communist governments loyal to Moscow. Winston Churchill called this divide the Iron Curtain, a barrier separating free Western Europe from the communist East. Daily life in the East meant censorship, surveillance, and crushed dissent. Berlin, deep in East Germany, was split between the Allies and the Soviets, making West Berlin a democratic island in a communist seat. In 1948, Stalin blockaded West Berlin, hoping to force the Allies out. The West responded with the Berlin Airlift, flying in supplies for nearly a year. The operation's success forced the Soviets to lift the blockade in 1949. West Berlin survived, becoming a symbol of resistance against communist expansion. The Iron Curtain was now a reality, dividing families, cities, and the future of Europe. The Cold War's front lines were drawn. The Cold War's tension erupted in dangerous crises. In 1961, East Germany built the Berlin Wall overnight, trapping its citizens and splitting families. The wall became the ultimate symbol of division and repression. In 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. The US discovered Soviet missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles from Florida. President Kennedy ordered a naval blockade. For 13 days, the world held its breath. Secret negotiations led to a deal. The Soviets withdrew their missiles, and the US pledged not to invade Cuba. The crisis showed how close the superpowers could come to catastrophe and the need for careful diplomacy. These flashpoints revealed the terrifying stakes of the Cold War. The world learned that peace could hinge on a single decision. The Cold War was a race for military and technological dominance. Both sides built vast nuclear arsenals, creating the doctrine of mutually assured destruction. If one attacked, both would be destroyed. Fear of nuclear war shaped daily life, from school drills to fallout shelters. The competition extended to space. In 1957, the Soviets launched Sputnik, shocking the world. The US responded with NASA and a pledge to reach the moon. The space race became a contest of ideology and innovation. In 1969, the US triumphed as Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon. These achievements were about more than science. They were proof of each system's strength. The race for supremacy fueled progress but also deepened the divide. The world watched, holding its breath. The Cold War shaped everyday life with fear and suspicion. In the West, anti-communist hysteria led to witch hunts and ruined lives. Espionage flourished. Spies, secrets, and double agents became the stuff of legend and reality. In the East, government surveillance and censorship were constant. Citizens faced shortages, propaganda, and pressure to conform. Secret police encouraged neighbors to inform on each other, creating a climate of mistrust. Both sides used propaganda to paint the other as evil and dangerous. The Iron Curtain wasn't just a border, it was a barrier in people's minds. The Cold War's shadow touched every home, every classroom, every conversation. Life was lived in the tension between hope and fear. The world waited for change. By the 1980s, the Soviet system was crumbling under economic strain and stagnation. Mikhail Gorbachev rose to power, introducing reforms, glasnost for openness, perestroika for restructuring. These changes unleashed a wave of demands for freedom across Eastern Europe. In 1989, mass protests in East Germany led to the fall of the Berlin Wall. Crowds surged through, celebrating the end of decades of division. One by one, communist regimes collapsed in peaceful revolutions. In 1991, the Soviet Union itself dissolved, breaking into independent nations. The Cold War was over. The world emerged from the shadow of nuclear conflict into a new era. The Iron Curtain was gone, replaced by hope and uncertainty. The legacy of the Cold War still shapes our world today. The struggle for freedom and justice continues. The lessons of division and reconciliation remain as relevant as ever.